Okay, so have you ever, like, found yourself watching one of those courtroom dramas?
Uh-huh.
And you get to the part where the gavel slams down, the judge issues some big ruling about, debts owed or property
Well,
seized.
right.
And you kind of wonder, like, what happens after that
Yeah.
when those pronouncements actually have to be uh, put into action?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you guys have sent us a ton of stuff on court enforcement officers,
Mm.
so I'm guessing you're pretty curious about this whole world, this like hidden corner of the legal system
It is definitely hidden. I mean, most people, honestly, they don't even think about it
until they have to.
until it's them or someone
Uh,
they know. And even then, it's way more complicated than the movies make it
Oh,
seem.
yeah, for sure.
But luckily, we've got some really insightful stuff from RoleCatcher to dig into.
Yeah.
They're a career platform, but they go way deeper than just, like, the basic job description. We're talking about the real nitty-gritty, the actual skills you need, the challenges, even I guess you could say the unexpected rewards of this kind of career.
See, that's what always gets me. I had this picture in my head of it being all, showing up with a warrant, that serious look on your face.
Yeah, yeah.
But Rollcatcher, they paint a very different picture. It's this blend of like legal expertise, but then also some really serious people skills.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to be a people person.
Almost like, I don't know, a financial detective who also happens to be a master negotiator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It all boils down to making sure those court decisions, they don't just sit there, that they actually get enforced.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need that legal knowledge, the financial know-how, and yeah, sometimes you got to navigate some pretty sensitive human situations.
So not for the faint of heart, I'd imagine.
You got that right.
And speaking of which, Rollcatcher breaks this whole career path down into 4 distinct stages.
They do, yeah.
Starting with, get this, court enforcement officer trainee.
Sounds intense.
Right. It really seems like there's a lot to learn before you even, like, hit the ground running, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. Think of it like, an apprenticeship, I guess, where you're shadowing these experienced officers, seeing how it all plays out in real life,
Wow.
absorbing all those legal procedures, every little detail. RoleCatcher actually quoted one officer, a real veteran, who said it's like the most intense legal education you'll ever get, and it's not in a classroom.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
And it really drives home this point that
Yeah.
it's a huge responsibility.
It is.
You're not dealing with paperwork here.
No,
These are people's lives.
you said it. And that's just the beginning, really. As you progress, become a full-fledged court enforcement officer.
Right.
The responsibilities, the challenges, they just multiply.
Yeah, I bet.
You're conducting investigations, gathering evidence, working with lawyers, the police, even the debtors themselves. It's a balancing act, finding that line between upholding the law, but also, dealing with those very real, very human situations.
Yeah, it makes you realize how important those negotiation skills probably are.
Oh, they're essential.
Because you're walking into these situations, right, and people are not always going to be happy.
You can say that again?
You're catching them maybe at one of the most difficult points in their life.
Exactly. You need that ability to stay calm, even when things get heated.
Yeah.
To bring it back down, de-escalate. And then you have to find solutions, right?
Yeah.
Solutions that satisfy the court, but also treat everyone involved with respect. It's not enough to know the law. You've got to be a master communicator, a conflict resolution pro. You're there to solve problems, not create more of them.
So you need thick skin, a cool head, and the diplomacy skills of, like, I don't know, a UN ambassador,
Very much.
all while juggling these legal complexities. Honestly, the more we talk about this, the more fascinating it gets.
It really is.
And it sounds like it could be a pretty rewarding career path, too. So let's talk about those advancement opportunities. Because RoleCatcher, they highlight some intriguing steps on that ladder, starting with the senior court enforcement officer position. What does that entail?
So that's where the leadership aspect really takes center stage. You're not just enforcing judgments at that point. You're strategizing, leading a whole team, figuring out the best ways to actually make those recoveries happen, building relationships with everyone involved, stakeholders, you name it. And you're making decisions that carry some serious weight, often with major financial implications.
So a whole new level of pressure. It makes you wonder what kind of person thrives in this environment. What are those less obvious qualities that might lead to someone finding real job satisfaction, going beyond just the paycheck?
That's a great question. One we should definitely delve into more as we get into the specifics of the skills required. But I can tell you this. The people who really excel in this field, They share a few things in common. They've got this strong sense of justice, this genuine desire to, I don't know, make things right. And they find a certain sense of fulfillment, a sense of accomplishment in bringing order to what can often be very chaotic situations. It's
It's
almost
really
like,
solving a puzzle,
yeah,
but with real-world stakes.
yeah, like solving a puzzle, but with real-world stakes. And that actually leads us perfectly into the skills themselves, because you can imagine it takes a pretty unique set of tools to really make it in this line of work. RoleCatcher gets into that, highlighting what they call role function, basically, like the top 5 core tasks of a court enforcement officer.
Okay, let's break those down. I'm
Yeah.
guessing like number one has to be that actual enforcement part, actually going out and enforcing the court orders, the judgments.
Exactly.
But what does that look like in practice? Because I have a feeling it's not always as simple as, showing up and seizing someone's prized possessions.
Oh, definitely not. It's, well, enforcing a judgment, it can take a lot of different forms. Sometimes it might be repossessing property, but it could also involve setting up payment plans that work, negotiating settlements between the parties involved, or even in some cases like redirecting a debtor's wages.
Huh.
There's a surprising amount of like financial maneuvering involved.
So you need a head for numbers too.
Big time.
Man, this job description just keeps getting more interesting.
And we haven't even touched on the legal side of things yet. Because remember, court enforcement officers, they need a solid understanding of the law, especially when we're talking about property liens, debt collection regulations, all those rules, and of course, debtors' rights. They have to know exactly how far their authority goes and how to operate within those lines.
Which is probably where that whole continuous learning thing comes in. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
RoleCatcher really stresses that. This idea that to be successful in this job, it's this constant process of educating yourself, adapting to changes.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Because laws change. New precedents are set all the time. You can't get stuck in the past. You have to stay ahead of the game.
Right.
Like, for example, there was actually a case recently dealing with debtors' digital assets. So we're talking cryptocurrency, NFTs, all that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it raised these entirely new questions about, like, how do you even identify those assets? How do you put a value on them? And then how do you go about seizing them to satisfy a judgment? It gets complicated fast.
I never even thought about
A
that.
whole new frontier.
So it's not just knowing the old rules, the old playbook. You got to be ready to tackle these very modern legal challenges.
Exactly. It's this fascinating mix, honestly. You've got the traditional and then this cutting-edge stuff all coming together.
Right.
And it's only going to get more complex, I think.
Yeah.
As technology keeps advancing, as the legal landscape evolves, court enforcement officers are going to have to keep pace.
So, okay, we've established you got to be legally savvy,
Yeah.
right? Good with numbers, a master of diplomacy, able to handle those high-pressure situations. But what about the emotional toll this job must take? Because you're constantly interacting with people who might be angry, scared, at their wits' end. How do you deal with that day in and day out?
That's where the empathy comes in. A good court enforcement officer, they understand that, nobody wakes up hoping to end up on the wrong side of a court judgment. There are often things going on behind the scenes, things people don't see, unexpected events, maybe some bad luck, sometimes, even bigger systemic issues that play a role.
So it's about recognizing the human element, not just seeing the legal side, the black and white of it.
Exactly. You have to treat everyone with respect, even when, frankly, they're not giving you that same respect. It's about listening to them, trying to understand where they're coming from, and whenever possible, finding solutions that work for everybody, or at least as close as you can get.
Man, that sounds incredibly challenging,
It is.
but also incredibly rewarding.
I'd say so.
Like you said earlier, it's like bringing order to chaos, but maybe it's also about bringing a little bit of humanity to a system that can feel at times very impersonal, very unforgiving.
You hit the nail on the head. That's why the people who are drawn to this profession, the ones who stick with it, they often have this very strong desire to help. Even when what they're doing, delivering news that people don't want to hear, it comes from that place of wanting to make things a little bit better.
It's like they're balancing those scales of justice, but with this dose of compassion thrown in.
Exactly.
So with all that said, let's say someone listening is intrigued. They're thinking, okay, this could be me. This could be my path. What are we talking about salary-wise, especially as you climb that ladder, move into those higher-level roles?
Well, based on RoleCatcher's data, it can vary a bit, of course. Depends on the experience, location, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Entry level, you're probably looking at around, I'd say, $40,000 a year, but
Yeah. But with experience, and especially as you step into those leadership roles, those senior court enforcement officer
yeah,
positions, the earning potential, it really starts to climb. RoleCatcher actually gave some really, honestly, some eye-opening figures on this.
they did. I think some people might be surprised.
So, like, what kind of numbers are we talking here? Spill the tea. Is it, like, enough to balance out the stress of, dealing with those high-pressure situations, those tough encounters?
Let's just say it's definitely not just about the paycheck, but that paycheck, it can get pretty significant, especially as you move up in the ranks. RoleCatcher, their data showed that senior court enforcement officers, those in leadership, they can earn well into six figures.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah, sometimes even exceeding $150,000 per year.
Wow. Okay. See, now those negotiation skills, the ability to navigate all that conflict, it's sounding even more valuable. But let's be real, this isn't a career for everyone. What would you say are those make or break personality traits? Like if someone's out there thinking, maybe this is for me, what should they really be considering?
Well, you got to have resilience, that's for sure. Thick skin. Because you're going to be dealing with people from all walks of life, and not all of them are going to be thrilled to have you knocking on their door.
Right.
But it's not enough to just be tough. You need that ability to stay calm, even when things get intense, to think clearly when emotions are running high, and to find solutions, creative solutions, but within the bounds of the law, of course.
It's that balance we keep coming back to.
Exactly.
You're enforcing the rules, but you're not forgetting about the human side of it all.
100%.
Right.
And I think if you're someone who enjoys puzzles, who likes to untangle messy situations, and who maybe, just maybe, has a knack for bringing people together even when they'd rather be at odds, well, then this line of work, it might just be the perfect fit.
Totally. And for anyone out there who's like, okay, this is me, this sounds right up my alley, RoleCatcher, they've got your back.
Oh, yeah.
They have these really fantastic resources, especially their interview prep materials, which are tailored specifically for aspiring court enforcement officers.
Yeah, those are great. They have all these sample interview questions, and they're not just surface level stuff either. It's like, how would you handle a situation where a debtor says they literally can't afford to pay?
Ooh,
Or tell us about a time you had to enforce a judgment that, personally, you didn't agree with. Tough stuff.
those are really tough. You have to imagine those scenarios.
Exactly.
It's almost like they're testing your ability to, I don't know, to separate your own personal feelings from your duty, from your professional obligations, which must be a constant balancing act in this job.
Oh, absolutely. It comes with the
And
territory.
it really does.
And that's why those questions, they're so important.
Yeah.
Because they force you to really think it through.
Right.
The ethical dilemmas, the emotional challenges, all the real-world stuff that court enforcement officers deal with on a daily basis, they make you confront it head-on.
So it's not enough to just know the legal jargon. You got to show them you have the judgment, the empathy, the integrity to navigate those really tricky situations, the gray area.
Exactly.
Right?
It's all about finding that balance.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of court enforcement officers, I gotta say, my perspective has totally shifted.
Yeah.
It's not just about those courtroom showdowns or even, the potential to earn a six-figure salary.
Right.
It's about the people at the heart of it all, the complexities of the legal system, and this constant balancing act of enforcing judgments while still, upholding those core principles of justice, fairness.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's this whole hidden world. But it has such a profound impact. It touches so many lives.
It does.
And for those who are drawn to that challenge, who possess that unique combination of resilience and compassion, of unwavering integrity, well, it can be an incredibly rewarding path, a way to make a real difference.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who, maybe discovered a newfound respect for this profession, for all its complexities, all the nuances, all the challenges, I'd really encourage you to check out those RoleCatcher resources. You never know, this deep dive might just be that first step on your own journey.